Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who School Reunion, the third episode of Series 2 of the Revival, or Season 28 overall. Sorry, in myself muddled up with Season 38, which is the current series airing at time of recording, Series 12. Okay, the plot of School Reunion sees Mickey discovering UFO sightings and strange goings-ons at Daffy Vale High School somewhere in London, and so it informs the Doctor and Rose, and they investigate with the Doctor pretending to be a physics teacher and Rose a dinner lady. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane Smith, remember her? She was a companion of the third and fourth Doctors from seasons 11 through to 2 stories into season 14, as well as also popping up in the Five Doctors and Dimensions in Time, and almost getting her own spin-off with K9 in K9 and Company. And this episode ties in with K9 and Company, as she's with K9, Mark III, who we saw in K9 and Company, A Girl's Best Friend, and the Five Doctors. Not sure which one it was in Dimensions in Time. I like to think it's Mark III, just because it gives this Mark 4 episodes, 4 stories, I should say, of stuff. But yes, Sarah Jane is investigating, and eventually she runs in with the Doctor, and it's about 12.5 minutes in, just before that, we get that fantastic panning shot where we see Sarah Jane. She's just seen the TARDIS. She walks out of the sports cupboard where it's hidden, about at the gym, and we see the camera pan round, and we see the Doctor right behind her. They'd already met, but she didn't know he was the Doctor due to his regeneration. And then we get the shot where it pans around, and she realizes that he is the Doctor, the man she was talking to earlier. Oh, that was amazing, and some really great stuff. This episode's also pretty quickly paced as well. I'll get back to that. And along with K9, you remember K9? He's the robot dog who was introduced in season 15 and left Mark 1 left at the end of that season, and then season 16 through to nearly the end of 18 was Mark 2, and then we've got Mark 3 for K9 and Company onwards, or up to here anyway. And so the gang, along with school kid Kenny, investigate and try to work out what's going on, as it seems that the new headmaster, Mr. Finch, played by a delicious Anthony Head. Oh, he's perfect casting. After becoming the new school teacher, headmaster, he replaces quite a bit of the staff who got unwell with a whole bunch of new staff. And it turns out, as well as some dinner ladies and a nurse, and it turns out that all of these teachers, including Finch, are aliens known as the Krillitane, which, when they invade different cultures, different planets and stuff, they take physical forms are based on the people that they invaded, and now look like giant alien bats, so to speak. And they're attempting to crack the Stasis paradigm. I think that's right, which is basically the code, the building blocks of the universe, and they seek to control it. So the Doctor and gang have to fight off the Krillitanes and eventually stop them from cracking the Stasis paradigm, which they're using the children to try and do, as the children have imagination, and they're mixing that with high intelligence that they're boosting the children's knowledge through Krillitane oil, which is being used on the chips that they are serving as school dinners, are now free but compulsory. Although by this point, Krillitane oil, they've changed so much. Krillitane oil, not sure where it comes from, but Krillitane oil is now deadly, or at least lethal to them. They're allergic to it, as we see earlier on, where one of the dinner ladies gets covered in it, almost covered. There's a bit of spillage on her, and she gets hurt. And this is how they're defeated at the end, with K9 blowing up a couple barrels of Krillitane oil to kill the Krillitane and blowing up the school, more or less. That was a sad scene. Poor K9, but thankfully at the end of the story, K9 Mark IV is introduced as a new model built by the Doctor. So that's practically the plot of School Reunion. This is a great episode. This is a really great episode. Some really great stuff with the Stasis Paradigm and the Krillitane. Great reintroduction for Sarah Jane Smith and K9. If you weren't convinced that this is the same show, this is a revived show, same show as the original 26 season classic series with the first 7 Doctors. If you weren't convinced it's the same show with Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant as the show that the first 7 Doctors, first 8 Doctors, when counting the TV movie, were in, then even with the Daleks' return, or the Autons being it, or the Cyberman head, or a couple of nods to the past, even with all that, if you aren't convinced this is the same show, as Russell T Davies says in a behind-the-scenes documentary, I think for the 45th anniversary, or for Series 4, I think it's on the Series 4 DVD, if you're not convinced by now, Sarah Jane and K9 coming back into this story proves it's the same show as the original, as the classics, and it's a great way to reintroduce Sarah Jane and K9. I will say my only issues is the way Sarah Jane and Rose act with each other. As Mickey says, it's the Mrs. Meets the Ex. So it's kind of an anagogy, thingamajig, to suggest a current girlfriend or wife meeting a former wife or girlfriend in such a way, and trying to make the Doctor more normal, and the two do get off on a rocky relationship. However, some of the things they say, especially Rose towards Sarah Jane, isn't very nice, although Sarah Jane does start out a bit acting a bit strange when meeting Rose. But yeah, both of them say some pretty unkind things to start with. So I can see why some people who aren't fans of Rose are going to be are going to be very happy with the way she talks to Sarah Jane, though Sarah Jane's things towards Rose isn't any better until they pretty much realize we're more or less the same, give or take, and we can actually get on really well. So yeah, it's just that little niggle. I don't mind the whole Mrs. Meets the Ex thing, but the way some of the things they say to each other can be a bit unfair, a bit rude. Just saying. But other than that, the episode deals with the past companion returning and trying to understand why the Doctor didn't come back for them after dropping them off really well. Some really great emotional scenes, and also the scene with Rose and the Doctor talking, and how he's expressing quite a lot of emotion when talking about it. That was some really great stuff. And furthermore, the scene where Mr. Finch attempts the Doctor into joining him, it's Sarah Jane who breaks him out when I suppose it's that point when she realises, we have to move on with our lives, I guess. So she's, not only is she learning, but she's also able to teach the Doctor to help move that along. So some really great moments. And also, not only has Elizabeth Sladen slid back into the role of Sarah Jane really well, but like with Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee in The 5 Doctors, and Troughton in 3 Doctors and 2 Doctors as well, and Tennant later on in Day of the Doctor, it's like she's never left. In fact, in this story, Elizabeth Sladen is better than ever at this current point. Of course, she'll get even better with the Sarah Jane Adventures and her appearance in Series 4, but at this point in time, she's never been better. So yeah, and it's glad that she will get her own spin-off after this and come back for 2 more appearances in the main show in Series 4 and the 2008 to 10 specials. So that's great. Also, Mickey gets some good stuff to do in this episode. He has a couple of things to do, and also it's funny having him talk to K9 in the car a couple times and him realising he's the tin dog and now he's having to step up. K9 also great. I don't know what's up with the voice. I thought the voice thing was because of K9 Mark III being battered and damaged and stuff, but Mark IV's voice has the same thing. I think they fix it. It goes back to normal sounding K9 by Invasion of the Bane, the first Sarah Jane Adventures story where he makes a cameo. I think by then they fixed the voice. If not, then by The Lost Boy. If not, then by Journey's End, Doctor's Journey's End. If not, then the next time he appears would be the Sarah Jane story, The Mad Woman in the Attic. He's definitely fixed by the voice is definitely back to normal by then. But yeah, for School Reunion, it sounds a bit off for some reason. I think with Mark III it would work because he's damaged, But with Mark IV, he's brand new, so he shouldn't have any voice problems. So maybe it was a voice modulator problem, and they were able to fix it by either Invasion of the Bane, The Lost Boy, Journey's End, or The Mad Woman in the Attic. I think certainly by the latter one, he is sounding normal. He does sound like good old K9. As I mentioned, Anthony Head is delicious as Mr. Finch. He's probably the best villain we've had since, excluding the Daleks, probably the best villain since the Editor, maybe even better than the Editors. He's probably the best individual villain of the new series so far, excluding the Daleks. And I think he's going to stay this way for quite a bit. But yeah, great character. And the Critter are actually pretty good monsters and villains as well. And their plan makes a lot of sense. It works really well. And attempting to get the children to crack the space paradigm using intelligence and imagination works. Is a great concept. Although I do think the character of Kenny was just there so that the gang could have one of the pupils join them. Basically, he's just. It felt like they needed to have a pupil as someone who's fighting off the Critter, so they just had one of the pupils fight off, help. Well, it doesn't really do an awful lot. I mean, it breaks the fire alarm thing, but that's about it, and he's the one who gets all the praise at the end. But that's really about it. But he's a likable character, so I'm not going to bash on him too much. Although I will say one of his friends, who likes the idea of break time being early. I think she's a 1 in a million character. But saying that's because, certainly from experience, I personally would not have liked break being cut short whilst at school. In fact, I would have been happy for it to go even longer. Topping off our great story is some great filming and editing. Also, like the Critter POV, although when they are attacking the gang, it's strange that they're just flying all over the place, not really going for them that much. And Mr. Finch seems to be personally hurt when K9 attacks the Critter. I mean, he's angry, but he seems to be personally in pain. Also, there's a bit where Critter just flies over the gang's minus Kenny and K9's heads before they go back, after the stuff in the chip shop and the emotional Dr. Rose talk, and then the Critter just flies over them just because, for some reason. So there's a couple of question bits, and also I think some of the sound linking up is a bit dodgy in places. I think I mentioned this in my Universal's review back in 2018, but I think it's quite noticeable in a couple of other things. Like it's at the start. So I think this one, I don't know what it is, but I think this episode had a couple of sound linking issues in places. Possibly. It just looked like that. It's a good paced episode. Quite a lot of stuff is handled within the first 22 minutes, and then the next 15 minutes fly by really, really well. So it's a really well paced episode. Maybe a lot of stuff does happen in the first 22 minutes, and they could have spread out a little bit more. But the next 15 fly by and get a really great story. And there's even some time for an emotional goodbye at the end, where Mickey joins the TARDIS and the Doctor and Sarah Jane have a proper goodbye. This is especially emotional, considering that 5 years after this story, and after a great run of Sarah Jane Adventure stories and a couple more appearances, Elizabeth Sladen would sadly pass away due to cancer. Fudge cancer, as Deadpool would say. The nice version. This is especially emotional now that after nearly 9 years since her passing, it still hurts for the fan community. But thankfully, it's not in vain, as Elizabeth Sladen left such a legacy. And recently, I think it was her birthday not too long ago, and the fans have been getting nostalgic for Sarah Jane Smith again. And I suppose this review sort of throws my hat into the ring for that. And yeah, Sarah Jane Smith is a fantastic character. She was a fantastic companion in the classic series, a fantastic companion in the new guest companion in the new series, and a fantastic main character in her own spin-off. In fact, that's where Sarah Jane Smith shines her greatest, in the Sarah Jane Adventures. I will review that series later down the line. I've got the complete series box set for Christmas, so I will be reviewing every episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures after I finish Doctor Who, and the same for Torchwood when I get that. But yeah, stay tuned for those later this year, next year-ish, sometime. But yeah, Elizabeth Sladen, you are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, great ending with Sarah Jane and K9 going off to new adventures, opening the door for said spin-off series. And yeah, it's so a great episode, not to mention a fantastic score by Murray Gold. I mean, the guy is a genius. I've heard Dudley Simpson be called a genius, and I agree. But Murray Gold, or especially Murray Gold up to Series 5, Series 6, anyway, wow. And even quite a few scores post Series 6 as well. He did kind of dwindle a little after Series 6, but he still had the occasional fantastic score, such as Breaking the Wall and in Heaven Sent and Twice Upon a Time. But Murray Gold, fantastic score in this story. And yeah, just hits the nail in the head. This story is brilliant. My only real problems with it is a couple of the things Rose and Sarah Jane say to each other. Like I said, I understand the whole Mrs. meets the X thing, but some of the things they say are just quite rude. Also, some of the audio syncing is a bit off in places, and K9's voice, whilst I can understand, I don't know what went wrong with, and also K9's voice doesn't sound right. For K9 Mark IV, it would make sense because he's damaged, but for Mark IV, no, he's supposed to be a brand new model. He's supposed to be brand new, but spanking new. He's supposed to sound how he used to, but sounds the audio doesn't. His voice doesn't sound so right. Not the actor. It's not the actor's fault. John Leeson does another fantastic performance, and he will continue to do so. It's just that how the voice sounds. It's a bit like C-3PO, his voice in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It sounds a bit off compared to how it was in and Rogue One, compared to how it was in the original and prequel trilogies and the Clone Wars. So I don't know what went wrong there. Thankfully, with K9's voice, it should be fixed by one of the next couple times we'll see him, and it should stay that way. He's definitely back to normal by Series 3 of Sarah Jane, definitely by then. Hopefully with Invasion of the Bane. If not, then The Lost Boy. If not, then Journey's End. If not, The Mad Woman in the Attic. And by that point, the voice should be back to normal. So that's good. However, the rest of the episode... So, thank goodness for that. But the rest of the episode, brilliant in quite a lot of ways. Another fantastic story. Not as great as Tooth and Claw or Christmas Invasion or most of Series 1. It's around the same good as The Unquiet Dead. Slightly better, but not quite 10 out of 10 just yet. It is still have a brilliant story. So I'll be giving School Reunion a 9 out of 10. Quite a few personal niggles and a few personal issues. I think this story is another amazing story in the series at this point. The Revive series was up to, 14, 15, 17 episodes and about 14 stories. 14 stories over 17 episodes, because remember, the two-parters of Series 1 were one story, or serial. So 14 serials, 17 episodes. And we've got a lot of 10 out of 10 stories already by this point. We've had about 4 or 5 episodes in Series 1. About 4 stories. Yeah, we had about 4 stories in Series 1, given a 10 out of 10. And now we've got 3, if you include the Christmas Invasion in the news. And now we've got 2, if you count the Christmas Invasion of Series 2. Not to mention 2 9 out of 10s, 1 for Series 1 and 1 for Series 2. And we're not even halfway into the second series just yet. We've got quite a lot of high positive episodes. That's just 9 and 10. There's 1 or 2 8s as well. Like I said, School Reunion is a really great episode. And yeah, just amazing. But next time is the puncher. It's the kicker. Next time is the emotional story that tugs you right at the heartstrings, whilst also providing an amazing science fiction historical story at the same time. Next time, we'll be taking a look at what's usually considered the greatest episode of Series 2, The Girl in the Fireplace. And I'm looking forward to that one. That is an amazing story. That is an amazing episode. Following that will be the first two-parter of the series, which will see the return of the Cybermen. Woo! So lots to look forward to. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And this episode ties in extremely and this episode ties in quite a lot. So that's basically school reunion, and that was a sad. And though it's not much that though Sarah Jane's response, and. But other than that, the episode and helps him. So some great moments there, and also not only is Elizabeth Sladen. In fact, I would even say Elizabeth Sladen is better than ever in this. In fact, and. Also, Mickey gets a lot more to do in this story. He gets some good roles. Mr. Finch, as I said, played brilliantly by Anthony Head's delicious performance, and the Crenitane actually pretty intimidating villain. As I mentioned, Mr. Finch, Anthony Head, I find it. No, I'm not going to talk about it. And yeah, I think so yeah, that character is a one in a million character of a school kid who would be happy with a shorter break time rather than a longer break time, or maybe she's just really keen to carry on learning, get back to class or whatever. And anyway. But moving on. But yeah, it just looked like that, and it just felt like that. But yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, Elizabeth Sladen, you were fantastic. So great ending to the story, and sets up the Sarah Jane Adventures. Wow, it doesn't set up what it's all going to be about, but it sets up. I've heard Dudley Simpson be called a genius, but Murray Gold, I mean, well, Dudley Simpson as well. He is I've heard Dudley Series 9, and Twice Heaven Sent and Twice Upon a Time, such as Breaking the Glass. A bit like C-3PO in the current, sorry, not going to the new Star, but well, it's around the it's around the Unquiet Dead level of some really great The Girl in the Fireplace. Next time we'll be taking a look at the 4th episode of Series 2, The Girl in the Fireplace, considered one of the greatest episodes of the series.